Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Lisa with Lisa Capen Quilts, and today I actually have a recorded class for you. I know it's been a while. I usually go live here lately on Friday afternoons or Friday at noontime here on my channel with different projects that I hope you're following along with. But today I have a recorded project for you. And do you like paper piecing? Do you not like paper piecing? Have you ever tried paper piecing? My cat's gonna go rustling in some packing papers. Of course she is. Today we're gonna be making this flower pot table runner. It is gorgeous and it's so much fun. This table runner, y'all, measures 45.5 inches long from left to right. And then from top to bottom, it is 18 inches wide. You'll be doing 3 paper piece blocks, and I'm gonna walk you through that process and then putting together the extra parts, the corner pieces and the borders, all in this 20-minute class. I'm going to walk you through it and it's going to be a breeze. I hope you give it a try. You can find the pattern in my Etsy shop, Lisa Capen Quilts on Etsy. There's a link in the description box below. Let's see if I can do the voiceover with the cat in the room. Let's give it a try. Let's get started. Let's take a look at the prep work that we need to do with this pattern to get started. We're going to flip on over here, and I want you to notice that you have several different things on your pages. You have boxes with letters and numbers in them. You have fabric templates, and then you have a fabric map. You're going to go ahead and separate all of these different elements, and I just use my rotary cutter. It's much faster for me. We're going to take the fabric map and we're going to set that aside. That's going to help with all of the placement. Then on our paper piecing patterns, the boxes with 2 outside lines, letters and numbers in them, I want you to cut them out directly on the outside line. Then I want you to take a ruler and score or fold all of the solid lines that go in between each one of the different sections that we're going to be adding fabric to. This is just going to speed up the paper piecing process down the road. You have 4 paper piecing patterns that you're going to prep just like this. So that's ready to go. I'll cut the other 3 out. And then you're going to have several fabric templates. You're going to have 10 fabric templates. And those look just like this, except they're different shapes. And these fabric templates, I want you to cut out on the outside line. And this is just going to help you go through your scraps or your yardage and pre-cut all of the different pieces for each block. You'll notice each one has a different letter inside the fabric templates. If you take a look at the fabric map and you compare it to the letter on your fabric templates, you'll be able to easily see where you are adding that piece of fabric into your project. Now taking a closer look or a good look at the fabric map, I've divided it into 4 sections. One complete flower pot block consists of 4 different sections. We're going to get started on the pot portion of this block first. So I have this section, and you'll notice that there are numbers in each section. Those are the order in which we add the pieces. And then the letters with the circles on them coordinate with the different templates that we're going to use for this section of the block. So we're going to start with 1 in the H template. Today I'm just going to be using scraps from my scrap baskets. I've started packing away my stash. The fabric templates are designed so that you can lay the fabric with the right side facing up and either trace or just simply cut out your fabric piece right around the edge of the fabric template. Working from the back of our paper piecing pattern, we are going to start by just simply adding a little bit of Elmer's glue stick right on the back, right in this section marked number 1. we're going to center that fabric piece right over it and make sure the fabric extends beyond the edges of the paper template. And the first piece of fabric we're adding to each one of these sections, you're going to put with the right side facing up. Then I'm going to use an add a 1/4 inch ruler, and we're going to fold back that paper template and just trim away any extra fabric beyond that fold, leaving just a 1/4 inch. Now we're going to bring over the template for position number 2, and I'm going to go through from my scraps and just trim that piece of fabric. And we are ready to add fabric number 2. With the folds on the back side, it easily shows which direction your fabric should be added. So just match that shape and then fold it right over onto the previous fabric you added, and you're ready to sew it. So we're going to bring this over, and I'm going to show you my first seam. I'm lining the needle right next to that paper fold. I folded the paper template back, and we are sewing on the fabric, not on the paper. And this gives us our 1/4 inch seam allowance. We don't have to worry about being so accurate with that seam allowance. That's one of the awesome things about paper piecing. So now that we've added the second fabric, I'm going to add a little bit of glue right into number 2's position. I'm going to just fold that fabric right over. And I'm going to finger press the seam. You could use a seam roller if you like. I like to just score it with my finger. And now we're moving on to section 3. So I'll fold the paper piecing pattern over, trim up the fabric to a 1/4 inch, and we're ready to find the template that goes with position number 3. Trim up that fabric, flip it onto the previous fabric we just added, and we're ready to sew that. And I'm not going to bring you over to the sewing machine each time to save a little bit of time in today's video. I'm just going to sew that off camera and come back. We're on to position number 4. So each time we add a fabric, we press it over, we fold the template for the next position and trim that seam allowance. Then we add that fabric, and we just repeat the process over and over again until each one of the positions is completely full. I know it seemed like I'm going really fast on this. We're going to do another block here in just a second from a different angle so that you can see the process again. And at any time, feel free to pause the video, especially if you're sewing along with me. Pause the video and follow along that way. So we're just adding all of these fabric bits in numerical order. And this is the last one for this section. Isn't that pretty? So for each one of these paper piecing patterns, you're going to actually make 3, because we're making 3 whole blocks. You'll make 3 of this section that I just walked through with you. And then once you have all the pieces, you're going to trim it right to that outside line. That's going to give you your 1/4 inch seam allowance. And because I used glue, you could just easily remove the fabric once you're done. You're making 2 more just like this. Now once I've removed it off of the paper, then I do like to go give it a good little press. I don't use any steam at this point, but I just do go give it a nice press. Now we're going to be walking through adding one of these sections. These sections look very similar, but they are different, right? If you take a good close look at the 3 other sections, this one and the other 2 that I haven't shown you yet, they look very similar, but they're a little bit different. So this time I'm just going to go through and pre-cut all of my pieces and just have them ready. I find that it does go by a lot faster if I just take a few minutes and pre-cut each one of these pieces first, and then just have them there ready to add. Isn't that purple really pretty? So just like before, we're going to start in position number 1 and make sure that fabric extends beyond the paper edge just a little bit. Then we fold over for position number 2 and we trim up any extra fabric. And we add the fabric for position number 2. Fold that over. Trim away for section number 3, which we're getting ready to add. There are lots and lots of ways to do paper piecing. I know many of you like to actually sew through the paper, which you can absolutely do with this project. You're just printing several copies of the pattern, right? This way you can reuse all of the patterns over and over again. One of the things I love about paper piecing is that if you're not good with working with little triangles like this, paper piecing makes it so much more accurate without a lot of fuss. So this pattern, you will find fabric requirements for each one of the colors if you use the same exact colors that is shown on the first page of this pattern. It gives you yardage amounts if you are purchasing fabric, but I just pulled out my fabric scraps and worked completely from that. And I think it would be gorgeous if you went totally scrappy on all of the different flowers. That would be gorgeous. Again, once you've added all of the fabric and covered all of the positions, you're just going to use a ruler or some scissors and trim away right to the edge of the paper, and then carefully remove that paper and you'll have your finished section. Now I know I went through that fast. Again, feel free to pause and work along with me. And if you have questions, you can ask me down in the comments section or send me a message over on Facebook. So I just wanted to show you how different those 2 pieces are, and then you have the one smaller top section that looks like this. So once you have all 4 of your paper piecing patterns sewn and pressed, this is what you'll have. And this makes one of your 3 blocks, right? So this is going to come together just like a 4-patch. We're going to flip over those 2 pieces, and we're going to sew those seams with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then you can go and press your seams if you like. While I'm right here, I'm just going to finger press those seams. And then these 2 sections get pieced together. So I'm just going to line them up, matching that one seam. And then we're going to sew that with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And that's how we piece together the 4 different sections for each one of the 3 flower pot blocks. Now I just found for my blocks at this point, it was just easier for me to press the seams over to the side. You could press them open if you like. Isn't that so pretty? So just keep in mind, you're making 3 total of these blocks. But you could also just make one of them and make this into a wall quilt too. Wouldn't that be pretty? All right, so let's go over and let's make the little corner sections. Let's cut the fabric that we need to frame this block. So I have some light green fabric here on my cutting mat. I'm going to cut a strip. Actually, you're going to need 2 strips that is 7 7/8 wide. And then you're going to flip them over and you're going to cut them into squares. So once you flip it, you're going to measure over another 7 7/8 and cut your squares. I don't know that it would hurt if you just rounded up to 8 inches. Once you have your squares, you're going to just cut them on the diagonal. You're going to need 12 of these little triangles just like this. We're going to start by sewing the first 2, and I just fold my block right on over and just finger crease it, and then fold the long edge of the triangles in half and finger crease it. And I found that's a really easy way to find the perfect placement. And we're going to be sewing these first 2 triangles with a 1/4 inch seam allowance first. So let's bring that over to the sewing machine. You'll notice you have a little fabric tab that extends beyond the edge of the block, and that's fine. That's supposed to be there. We're going to sew these first 2 triangles. And then I just fold that seam right towards that triangle. And then I'll fold the block again and mark the centers on the other side. And then fold the other 2 triangles right in half. I'll just use clips just to keep them all lined up and bring them over to the sewing machine. We'll sew those 2. And once you've sewn those 2 seams, I do like to go through and cut the little, there's a name for them, I always forget, the little extra tabs of fabric that extend beyond that block. I just like to clean them up and then press those last 2 corners just like that. So this is one completed flower pot block with the corners that have been added. You're going to make 3 of those, right? And once you have your 3 blocks completely made, you can just join them together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You'll note that I used pins this time just to line up the very center points of these blocks, just to make sure they're lined up nice and perfectly. And to join this section, it's going to take 2 seams, and so this is me sewing my second one. And that's going to join the 3 blocks together. Now on these 2 seams, I do go ahead and just open these seams up and press them open. I reckon you could press to the side too. You could. And there we go. She's coming right along. Once you get through the paper piecing portion, the rest of the construction of this table runner goes together really fast. So here's my table runner and here's my border fabric. We're going to start by adding the left and the right borders first, right? We're going to turn those borders right side right on top of that table runner, and we're going to join those with a 1/4 inch seam allowance and then press those seams towards the border that you just added. Then we'll join the top and the bottom, and those pieces you will have to sew together to get the length you need for these 2 pieces. then they'll get added to the top and bottom. So I just wanted to show you how I square up the borders as we go along, right? I've added the left and right smaller borders, and I'm just lining everything up with a square ruler and trimming off the extra bits and squaring up these first two borders before we add the top and the bottom. That's going to keep us all nice and straight, right? So now at this point, I've added the top and the bottom, and I'm just going to square up the extra fabric on that and keep this top nice and square. Once you have your top all squared up, you're ready to go ahead and layer this project, right? You're going to take your back fabric and you're going to lay that with the right side facing down. On top of that, you're going to add your batting, and then your quilt top or your table runner is going to go right side facing up right in the middle of everything. And you could pin base this, spray based, glue based, your preferred method for basting your project. And then you're ready to quilt, right? You could tie this. That would be gorgeous. You could do stitch in the ditch. You could get creative and do some custom quilting. I loaded mine on my long arm and used a design called Fern from Urban Elements. And isn't that so pretty? So here she is with the binding, and she's all ready, and she's ready to be used, right? Isn't that so pretty? I can't wait to see your table runner when we're done. I know that this project class went by really fast. I hope that you, if you have questions, that you pause everything. Use the notes section that is in the pattern and make yourself some notes that might be handy. Or just pull me up on the laptop or tablet while you're sewing yours together and just pause as we're going right along. And yeah, I hope you have a lot of fun with this project. It's been great recording for you today. We'll see you later. Bye.